So in this tutorial, we're going to go through some MIDI editing options and use the transform function that's within the piano roll. What I'm going to show you is just how to manipulate these the MIDI to maybe give it more of a human feel, a bit more humanization and velocity changes, etc. A very quick way of doing that. Also, I'm going to show you some other features within the transform section and see where we go. So what I've started off with here is just an ultra beat, and all it's doing is just playing the hi-hat bank. And what I'm going to do is literally just come in here, find a closed hi-hat, and grab 2 bars. And just bring it up. Let's just right. Actually, let's draw this in just so it's a bit more easier to see. So all I'm going to do is just draw in. Just a 2-bar hi-hat pattern. I'm going to take tempo down, and it's all at the same velocity because I've drew it in, and it sounds like this. A very mechanical, robotic sounding hi-hat, just running in 16th notes. So what we can do is, within the functions option, transform, there's a load of options here, and if you've not seen this, they can be very useful. You've got a load of different options which you can see what they're called, but there are some that can really help you. Well, they help me, especially within drums, the higher end drums, so hi-hats, high percussion, to get a bit of swing, a bit of velocity changes. It's perfect for me. So I'll show you how some of these functions help me and what you can do with some of these functions. So we'll start with just showing you what the transform tool looks like. So if we just click on fixed velocity to start with, this is what it sounds like, looks like, sorry. And what it does is it's got all different settings, and you can assign them to do whatever you want and just basically tell it to change your MIDI data to however you want this MIDI data to be. So all we're doing on this one is under velocity, it's fixing the velocity at whatever number you set it. So if we wanted to say all these parts are played in at 80, so if we just take that up to maximum, 127, if we hit select, it will select our part. You can see it selects them, and then if we hit operate, it'll operate. So it will do what's going on in here, which is fix all the velocity at 127, and you see it did that. That's the basic of level that gets, and then we can start looking at more complex ones. So if we skip down a couple here, because random pitch will be very similar to random velocity, but obviously we'll manipulate it across pitch, but we're not going to use that one. So if we go to random velocity, you can see here under velocity this time it says random, not fixed. It gives you 2 options. Now this is your highest value and your lowest value, and it will randomize each MIDI note to a number between there. Now if you look, you can see they're all at 127. They're already selected, so if we hit operate, it's going to have a minimum value of 40, a maximum value of 127, and it will randomize them in between. And you can see here nothing drops below 40 in the velocity range, and 127 is the highest. You can just keep hitting that until you find it just keep randomizing, and it can give you a bit of a human type velocity feel if you set the parameters correctly. We've done this quite extreme. Let's have a little listen. As you can hear instantly, it feels like it's slightly changed the rhythm. It hasn't. It's just to do with the velocity levels. It sounds definitely a lot more human. Not like could be. It still feels robotic, but it feels a lot more humanized and a lot more natural than it did. And there are some other things that we can do to this, but that is very valuable. Changing the velocities, especially at hi-hats and higher end percussion, especially for me anyway, it just gives that extra natural feel that it's not perfect. It's not playing at the same pitch, same velocity every time. So if we go back into transform, we'll skip a few and we'll come down to humanize, because this is very similar to random velocity but adds something extra. If we hit humanize, you see it's got velocity, and it randomizes your velocity that you're playing by either plus or minus. So we've got our random velocities here, and this is going to randomize these by plus or minus 10. So it's going to play around with our velocity values again by randomizing these, and also randomizing the quantise length. So if we zoom in just quickly, you can see that all these parts where I've drawn them in, they're snapped bang on the 16th beats. They're snapped. If we utilize this, we can change this to whatever we want. If we keep it, let's just make it a bit more obvious for you, double the value to 20 samples. If I hit operate, I have to select first, so let's select them. If I hit operate, these note lengths, the beginning and the ends, will change, and it will give it, well, hopefully I've upped the value, so hopefully it doesn't sound too crazy, but hopefully it will give it a even more natural feel. So if you operate, you see straight away that the notes are not starting and ending bang on the beats. They're starting to give, let's close this, starting to generate a bit more of a natural feel, and the velocities have changed again. I'll show you that again, but if I fix the velocity, so again, this one's fixed velocities, operate just sets every velocity at 100. If we go back to humanize, do this again, you'll see if I hit operate, it's ever so slightly changing the velocity, and it's also changing where the quantise, well, it's actually the note length, but it's almost giving a swing quantise. So now if I hit play on that, I have done it. I did do it twice, so it's at technically 30 samples it potentially could be, but we can chuck that up even higher. Let's drop that a bit, and the velocity changes will be big. Now straight away it sounds a lot more natural, a lot more human. It's not banging time. It's got a little bit more swing. It's definitely not playing at the same velocities as we can see down here. And it is a great and quick way to get a really different feel and different vibe to your drum beats. For me anyway, it can change the whole swing of it and the whole mood. So it is something that you can play with. It's very good. There's loads of other functions in here that we can go through as well. So you've got half speed and double speed as well, which pretty much do what they say on the tin. If you hit double speed, it will make them twice as fast. And also half speed, it will half the speed. Now this is gone back to our original part. If we made this part half speed, it does continue for another 2 bars, so it would make it 4 bars in length. But what will happen, if I'll show you now, half speed, it will go past the length of the actual part, so you can see here that they're all muted. So what you're going to need to do is just extend your part, otherwise they'll be inaudible, just to let you know. You've also got maximum and minimum note lengths, which again pretty much say what they are. You can choose your length max, choose what you want. So maybe if we make this quite small, so you'll see the maximum note length that these can be will be quite small, and if we operate, it will make them the maximum note length. So you can manipulate everything. Maybe this sort of the note length side of things is probably not great within drums because they're all one shot drums anyway, and it won't make much difference. But with actual instruments in a sampler, it will make a difference. So you can go with that. You've got loads of things in here. Crescendo, if we hit operate, you can see it will make the velocity crescendo up. And you have literally got loads of little bits in here that you can play around with, and they're all pretty self-explanatory. Transposition, if you can transpose your MIDI, your pitch by whatever you want. So if you wanted to knock it up a third, for example, you can see here, hit operate, it'll knock it up 3 semitones. So if you had a whole MIDI part and you're like, oh, I need it in a different key, you can transpose it very quickly there by selecting the MIDI parts and dropping it down into another key. It's great for key changes. If you're playing the same part and you want a key change, just highlight all the MIDI, transpose, boom, it'll knock all the MIDI down for you very quick. And you can also create your own users as well. If you go back to initial user list, it's all blank by default. You can choose whatever you want. So that is the transform option within functions, and I did go through a couple of these and show you how I use them. It's a very useful tool. I'd advise you to get used to it and have a little play around. If you do have any questions, drop me an email or message me on YouTube. However, get in touch. Hope this helps. Hope you enjoyed the tutorial, and thank you for watching. Cheers.